get yourself ready because I've got 3 massive Celtic stories lined up for you today. And trust me, the last one is the one you really don't want to miss. We're talking Luke McCowan spilling the truth on the O'Neill effect, James McPake firing back over what's being said about Daizen Maeda, and a Scotland midfielder back on the market after that summer bid from Celtic. And the twist is unbelievable, so stay right here until the very end. We have 6 news a day to keep you updated with the mighty Celtic. Hit that subscribe button and be part of it. Let me walk you through this as if I'm sitting beside you in the studio, green scarf round my neck, still buzzing from Rotterdam and ready to talk Celtic with the sort of passion that would make the Azuis greet into their scarves all the way down Sucky Hall Street. So here we are with Luke McCowan giving us a cracking wee insight into what it's actually been like working under Martin O'Neill these past few weeks. And honestly, hearing the lad speak, it feels like he's describing every Celtic supporter's dream version of a manager. You know that Nick Martin has, that beautiful blend of pure authority with just enough humor to calm a room full of players who've been living through pressure heavier than the Glasgow rain. And no surprise there, Martin's been lifting spirits faster than a last-minute winner at Paradise and giving this squad exactly what they've needed: belief. McCowan talks about Rotterdam the way you talk about a moment you'll remember for the rest of your life, standing there in De Kuip, defending set pieces like their lives depended on it, and then playing their own football with a confidence that's been missing for far too long. And that came straight from Martin. The man walked into that dressing room, told them to trust their qualities, and they actually did it. Imagine that. You've got a manager who's been around Celtic long enough to know exactly what pressure smells like, and yet he still walks in cracking jokes, taking the heat out the moment, and somehow commanding the utmost respect from everyone in the room. That's a rare gift. And Luke says himself, it's been like stepping into a time machine. A fan all his life, growing up on stories of Martin's first spell, hearing his family go on about those legendary days under a man who created Celtic memories that'll last until the sun burns out, and now he's living that. You can hear the disappointment in his voice when he admits he wishes Martin was 20 years younger so he could stick around for longer. And honestly, who doesn't feel a wee bit of that watching him steady this ship, put fire back into the players, cut the gap in the league, deliver a European away win? It's been pure magic, but here's the thing. Today is his last dance, his final game in charge before Wilfried Nancy steps in. And Luke knows the pressure's there. He knows the energy will be sky high. He knows the lads want to give Martin the send-off he deserves. And at the heart of all this, you can feel the unity. You can feel the squad buying into it. Not because they're being told to, but because Martin reignited something that was fading. So the question I want to throw right at you, because I know you've got feelings about this, is this: should Celtic have pushed harder to keep Martin O'Neill in charge until the end of the season, especially after delivering that European win? Or is it the right moment to hand the keys over to Nancy? Tell me what you think, because this one is going to split opinion like Sucky Hall traffic at rush hour. Hit that subscribe button. Lads, let's G it. Loldy till we hit 1,500 mad Celtic dafts. Let me break this down for you the way a true Celtic man would, sitting here shaking my head at some of the nonsense that gets thrown at our players, especially when they hit even the slightest dip in form. And this time it's all about Daizen Maeda, the lad who runs more in one match than most players do in a month, the lad who terrifies fullbacks the moment he steps onto the pitch. Yet somehow you still get folk in this country desperate to write him off at the first sign of a wobble, like they've never seen a footballer in their life. James McPake's had enough of it, and honestly, so have I. He's come out swinging, and good on him, because the chat around Daizen has gone from daft to downright embarrassing. All this talk about his head being turned, that he supposedly wanted to leave Celtic in the summer, that he's not the same player, that we should have cashed in. Where do these people get this stuff? You know exactly the type I'm talking about. The same sort who suddenly turn into tactical geniuses after watching a 2-minute highlight on their phones while eating a pasty. McPake's absolutely right. As a country, folk are far too quick to write players off, even ones who were running riot all last season. And let's be honest here, Daizen Maeda had a dip, not a decline. There's a massive difference. A dip is human. A dip is natural. A dip is what happens in football, especially when you work as relentlessly as he does. He's not a luxury player who floats about waiting for the ball to drop onto his toe. He's a machine, pressing, sprinting, chasing lost causes like his life depends on it, and sometimes that takes a toll. But then Rotterdam happens, and suddenly the lad is back, looking like the Daizen we know, the Daizen we adore, the Daizen defenders have nightmares about. He was outstanding. He was everywhere. You could see his confidence flicking back on like a floodlight at paradise. McPake sees that. Real football people see that. So, at the Noise Brigade, they'd sell their own gran if she misplaced her slippers. And this is the part that really gets me. The moment Daizen hits top form again, the same folk who wanted him punted will be front and center pretending they backed him the whole time. Typical. What matters is this: Celtic need Daizen Maeda. We need that energy, that chaos, that spark. And if Thursday night is anything to go by, he's on his way back to being one of the most frightening forwards in the league. Not great news for the rivals, right enough, especially those across the city who already spend half their week sweating about our wingers. So here's what I want to ask you, and this is going to stir it right up. Do you think some of the Celtic support have been far too harsh on Daizen Maeda, or has the criticism been justified after his slow start to the season? Tell me, because this one's going to divide opinion like a storm rolling through Glasgow. Hit that subscribe button. Lads, let's G it lolly till we hit 1,500 mad Celtic daffs. Let me walk you through this one the way a true Celtic heart reporter should, sitting here with the rain battering off the window like it's trying to get into paradise itself. And today's wee saga is all about Andy Irving, a player who's had a career so unusual, it feels like someone wrote it after one too many nights on Sucky Hall Street. So here we are, a month away from the January window, and suddenly Andy Irving's name is back on the market again. And this lad, you need to understand, has taken one of the strangest routes you'll ever see. He breaks through at Hearts, decides he's too good to sit around waiting, jets off to the German third tier, fair enough, and then Austria, where things get properly mental. West Ham swoop, but somehow don't actually announce him. And now he's popping up here and there as a bit part Premier League player, sneaking into Steve Clarke's Scotland squads like someone who's smuggled themselves onto the team bus. And Celtic were in for him in the summer, make no mistake about it. It wasn't just a rumor blowing about the wind in the East End. There was a real bid put in for Irving, and it got knocked back. Before that, we'd even tried to grab him on loan, but instead, we ended up signing Luke McCowan, who's been excellent, by the way. No complaints there. Now, the noise is that Wrexham want him in January. Wrexham, Hollywood FC, the wee project club with 2 actors and a dream. Honestly, the thought of Irving ending up there after being linked with Celtic feels like swapping a steak pie for a cold salad. It just doesn't sit right. The lads had a couple of starts under Nuno at West Ham, but with a World Cup squad to earn, he's got every right to start thinking about where he's actually going to play football instead of polishing the bench every weekend. But here's the twist in the tale. With Celtic linked to David Watson and Hossam Esadak, it's obvious the club are sniffing around midfield options for the summer. And that's odd because, let's be honest, midfield depth isn't exactly our problem right now. If anything, we've got more midfielders than Rangers have excuses after a derby loss. But then comes the key point, UEFA's registration rules. The need for Scotland-grown players becomes a real factor, and suddenly Irving starts to make a lot more sense as an option. He wouldn't be a glamour signing. He wouldn't be the kind of player that gets the whole of paradise buzzing before kickoff, but he'd be steady, reliable, and useful in the squad. And sometimes that's exactly what you need. Someone solid, someone schooled in Scottish football, someone who knows what it means to walk out under those lights with the noise shaking the sky. But here's the real question for you, the one that's going to spark a right good debate, and I'm asking you directly because you're the one I want to hear from. Should Celtic actually be going back in for Andy Irving? Or is he just not Celtic quality, no matter how convenient he'd be for the UEFA rules? Go on, tell me. This one's going to get folk riled right up. Hit that subscribe button, lads. Let's gee it, Lowdy, till we hit 1,500 mad Celtic dafts.